Welcome to the Voice for Mount Pleasant podcast, featuring discussions and interviews about the people, places, and events that make Mount Pleasant such a special place.
Hello, this is Roger Gaither, your host for the Voice for Mount Pleasant podcast. In this episode, the publisher of Mount Pleasant magazine, Bill Macchio, chats with Brooks Melton, the CEO of Beacon Community Bank. Now, here's Bill and Brooks.
We're so excited to have Brooks on from Beacon Community Bank. And Brooks, the one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on, and I appreciate, by the way, you taking your time to do this, is we showcased you in an article in the recent Mount Pleasant magazine because of everything Beacon did for the community, and you did. So I want the people to get to know you, man. You're a cool guy. So tell us a little bit about it. Well, we're excited to have you. Kids, how many kids you got? Tell us a little bit about you.
Got 3 kids, 2 girls and 1 boy, ages ranging from 14 to 19. Interesting times these days with virtual school and everybody being home and lots of activities being shut down, but they stay busy. One is rising sophomore at Chapel Hill, and she's doing virtual summer school, and the other works at the local bicycle shop, Sweetgrass Cycles, over on Mathis Ferry.
Oh, yeah.
And the youngest, she works at the Snack Shack at Hobcaw Yacht Club.
Awesome. Well, speaking of the yacht club, I understand that, when we talked yesterday, I was trying to understand you a little bit, as you know, and your downtime is when you're on your boat, I understand. And then you just told me that you're the Commodore at the Hobcaw Yacht Club.
I am. Interesting times to be both the Commodore of the yacht club as well as running a bank. Lots of interesting restrictions and operational challenges to deal with. We've got a maximum occupancy limit on the number of people that can be at the pool at any one time, and so all that kind of stuff has been made for challenging times, but glad to be able to contribute.
Has the club done a good job on making the residents a Hobcaw and the membership of the club? Have they made people feel comfortable?
I believe so. You certainly cannot make everybody feel completely comfortable, I don't think, but I think we've done a good job of balancing that. We've been very focused on keeping things safe and minimizing spread, and we've been fortunate that we've not had any outbreaks. The pool has been open since May. Our boat yard and boat ramp remain open. And
I bet they've been busy too, right?
That's right. And so far, so good.
Tell the listeners what your perfect day is on the boat.
Well, really, the perfect day is taking a ride out to one of the remote islands, dropping the anchor, and hanging out on the beach with friends and family all day.
For sure.
Maybe coming back around sunset.
Segueing into the bank, because I know that's really that's passion. You're very passionate about what you do, Brooks. The people that surround you, your team, they just love you to death. How long you been in the banking business?
About 26 years now, starting in 1994.
Were you a teenager back then?
I had graduated college at that point.
You're awfully young, though, for being a CEO. I mean, seriously, you picture a CEO of a bank a little older and gray hair like mine and whatever. You ever get comments about that?
On a fairly regular basis. It's not the first time, but with 26 years of experience and 3 kids, got a little. Should have some gray hair.
Did you know right away when you went to work in a financial institution that you were going to have this much passion for it?
Honestly, no, I did not. But my experience over the years has been pretty wide ranging. I've worked for very large mega banks with 300,000 employees, as well as small banks. And for a period of time, I was a correspondent banker. As a correspondent banker, other community banks were my customers.
Okay.
And that's really through working for the big banks as well as small banks, and then calling on community bank CEOs and CFOs really helped me cement that desire to one day build a bank.
And you started with it. You started with a small savings loan here too. That was your first job, right?
Well, first job was with a North Carolina bank, but
okay.
Back in 2010 timeframe, I came to Charleston for the second time to work with First Federal.
Yes, and that definitely is a homegrown bank. Listen, as we've been talking, Brooks, over the last 2 days, I know you must have had a feeling, and I know it's a process of putting the job together and talking to all your colleagues about opening the bank. But tell us a little bit about what was going through your mind. I'd like to explore that. I'd like you to tell them.
Sure. Well, unquestionably, a lot of excitement. Also, knowing that there was a big uphill road ahead of us, we've got a phenomenal board. Our chairman, Mr. Tommy Baker, has been a visionary behind the whole thing and been a motivating force, as has been the whole entire board. But it's about a year-long process to start a bank. We did it in about 10 months. You have to file an application with the regulators, and it's literally a stack of paper this high when you print it out, and they accept it in hard copy paper form as well. But it's about a year-long process. We did it in 10 months. We officially said go March 1 of 2017 and opened our doors January 8th of 2018. So we're about 2.5 years old now. But you on some things you feel your way along. On some things you absolutely know what the answer is and what the direction is. But there's an awful lot of things to pull together. And
well, Brooks, you were talking about going to the other small community banks. That was an indefinitely valuable. The value there is massive for you, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And still today, many of those former customers are great resources and peers. And anytime that we come across something that we've not had to deal with before, I've got a long list of folks I can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, how do you do these things?
When I asked you about your leadership in our previous conversations, I personally liked how humbled you were, because you didn't want nobody really likes to brag about themselves. But seriously, dude, I mean, the people that your team just loves you to death. And the word that you used was, when I asked you that question, was transparency. Tell me about your leadership style, if you don't mind.
Well, it really is just all about a lot of engagement, a lot of authentic engagement, and not asking people to do things you wouldn't do yourself. You might see me pull the vacuum cleaner out at the branch from time to time. Any small business owner, and really truly, we are a small business. Any small business owner can relate and is familiar. We don't have an HR department. We don't have a facilities department. We don't have a department to do this or a department to do that. Each and every one of us, including starting at the top, if you don't do it yourself, it doesn't happen. So it's all about leading by example.
Yes.
And not asking folks to do things you otherwise wouldn't do. And it's just about caring and true, authentic engagement.
And also, Brooks, by having that kind of attitude, when you have an attitude like that, it flows down to the clients, to your customers. Don't you feel that?
100%. 100%. Banking is still a people business. And this recent last 3 months or so with COVID-19 and PPP, and especially in the small business realm with PPP and the varied experiences that folks have had, whether they were dealing with a large bank or a small bank. One thing that's come out of that is it really has shown a light on how important it is to have a banking relationship and how much of a people business banking still is.
I agree. When Brian Sherman did the article and we talked a little bit, I was very impressed about a lot of things with Beacons Bank, but Community Bank, but the fact that you guys were willing to help people, even if they weren't customers, I thought that said a lot about you, about the bank. So through your eyes, what is how does a community bank differ from an institutional bank?
It comes back to the people and relationships. It's across the board, really, in everything that occurs at the bank. We are not going to force you to make 3 or 4 menu selections on a touch-tone phone in order to get in touch with a live person who's probably not even located in the same state. We answer our phones. We give folks our mobile phone numbers, and we truly care about the community. Every one of our board members lives here locally. Our entire management team, all of our employees live in the Charleston area, and every single decision that's made at this bank is made here locally. And all that adds up to a completely different experience. It really comes back to relationships and service, and getting to know your banker and dealing with the same banker over and over, year after year.
After talking to you and then talking to some of your staff, those just aren't words at Beacon Community Bank.
That's right.
I mean, you guys really, that's part of your DNA there. I mean, it really is. Okay, I want to move on to the article in the magazine now. As I said, in the July-August edition, the current issue of Mount Pleasant Magazine, we had done an article on is it Payroll Protection Program? Is that what it's officially called, PPP?
That's right.
And of course, the government put it out there to help small businesses. We know what some other banks did, with some of that money as far as catering to the big guys. But tell us what how you approached it in your team.
Well, first of all, we had not, being 2.5 years old, we had not yet done any SBA loans. So we had to get approved. And
so the PPP money came from the SBA?
Actually, it came from us, but the SBA guarantees the loan.
Okay. Basically,
we make you the loan, and we get an approval from the SBA, whereby the SBA is agreeing to with us that they will guarantee repayment of the loan. But we had to set forth and get approved to make PPP loans. We did that. And obviously, everything happened in a very, very short time frame. But that's one of the benefits of being a small bank is that we were nimble.
What did your weeks look like? How many hours were you putting in per week during that time period?
We had not just me. We had a number of folks that were working about 90 hours a week, and more than a handful of those folks that lasted for about 6 weeks.
Lead us into some of the people you help. I know you can't mention names, but you told me a name. You didn't tell me a name, but you told me about a lady. If you could relay
Sure.
that again.
No, that was a great story. So it was a Friday morning, probably about 9:15. The phone rang. I answered it. This new customer to Beacon Community Bank had been dealing with her existing bank for well over a week. This was in the first round of PPP when there was a big media frenzy and lots of anxiety that was created about the need to hurry up and get your PPP loan before the funds ran out. And so she was feeling that anxiety. You could hear it in her voice when I answered the phone. Her bank, she wasn't able to get any feedback from her bank. It just seemed like a black hole. And she tried some other banks who would not take an application from her because she was not an existing customer. She reached out to the SBA, and the SBA actually gave her my name and number. After talking with her,
so she was not at that point a customer at that time, a customer of your bank.
Not. That's right. So that was Friday morning. I had one of our folks call her back shortly thereafter. She gave us all her information on Friday, and then 2 days later, about 2:00 on Easter Sunday, we were able to call her back and tell her that we had her approved with the SBA, and she broke down in tears. And that's when you really know that you're making a difference, and just how much it meant to her and her business, a long-standing family business. They have now moved their entire banking relationship over to us.
And that's great. That's a great story. And you didn't do it. Your motivation, the bank's motivation, isn't necessarily to get new customers as much as to help people in this community, right?
That's right. That's right. And one of the great things about the PPP process for us, it being 2.5 years old, we've done some really good things, but it was exciting for me to see how our team rose to the occasion and how they reacted. And one of the best parts was just seeing how much reward our employees felt. They knew they were making a difference. They could see it and hear it in every single interaction. and they were genuinely proud and happy to know they were making such a big difference in the community. And you could see them want to help one more and one more, just because it was so rewarding to be able to make such a big difference. And that was one of the real exciting things for me.
Brooks, that's what I feel. Every time we put out the magazine, everybody here, the team here, just when it comes together, isn't it wonderful when your team is on the same page? That just makes for such synchronized energy, doesn't it?
It really does. Really does.
So, in a previous conversation, you told me that you guys, is this right? If I remember right, you did 500 local loans, which resulted in, did you say $50 million?
Over 500 loans and more than $50 million. That's
wow,
correct.
That's awesome. And then I asked you if there's a common thread, and you told me that there really wasn't, but then I mentioned it's local. They're all local, right? All that money was local,
That's right?
So that whole $50 million is back into this community by your community bank.
Right. And it supports jobs.
Right.
And so even with an independent contractor or a sole proprietor, you're supporting one individual job. But then we did some loans for companies with 200 employees, and those loans help cover payroll for that entire employee base.
That's awesome. So what's the takeaway from what we're going through and what we've been through? What's the takeaway through your eyes?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how long the disruption economically continues. Obviously it's medically driven. If we get a vaccine, then that when that happens, that will make a big difference. In the meantime, frankly, there's just a lot of unknown and uncertainty as to how bad does it get, how long does it last. I think it's important for all of us to do the right things, to do our part to minimize the spread. But in terms of banking, I think the one thing that has really risen to the surface, relationships matter. And having a local banker who will answer your phone call, maybe you have their mobile phone number, maybe you text back and forth from time to time on a regular basis, but having that relationship, existing relationship with a banker, that's so important for a small business owner. And we know small businesses are the backbone of our community.
Definitely. But let me ask you another question. What are you doing personally? What are you and your family doing personally to help eliminate the spread of COVID?
Well, I tell you, it's something that's been very at the forefront of my mind. We have to be very concerned about quarantining employees if somebody is exposed to another person, and so they don't come into the bank and expose our customers or other employees. So it's something that is on my mind every day. At the bank, we are of course, we're wearing face masks when we're not in a space by ourselves like I am right now. My family, I've bought everybody masks. It's sometimes tough to get a 19-year-old and a 16-year-old to want to quarantine and be away from their friends. But as best we can, we're strongly encouraging them to stay in small groups. Are
they listening to you? Are they listening to you because they're teenagers?
For the most part, yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. It is a serious matter what we're going through, and of course, because we've been here so long, we relate to Hugo as one of the events that we've all been through. But there's a lot of uncertainty here for sure. But Brooks, I think it's all the way you digest the negative, and it will come out positive if you have the right attitude. And,
I agree.
It's just a matter of, like you said, coming together and being together. Brooks, I can't tell you how much I've been looking forward to meeting you, and I know how humble you are, and I like that. But your people just love working with you. I know one or two people over there that were interviewing for the job, and after they met you, they were in. They love working for you. So I respect your your charisma and you're doing the right thing, man. Everybody's got to do the right thing. So, but thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you being on Voice for Mount Pleasant. Now, I asked you to watch a podcast last night. You said you would. Which one did you watch?
I watched and I cannot claim I watched the whole thing, but I watched a few minutes of your podcast with Will Haney.
Oh yeah, he's a cool guy. You know, he's think about that. That's a tough position to be in right now, the mayor of Mount Pleasant, right? You know,
it's for any of our leaders, mayors, governors, leaders of school systems. Man, it's not an enviable position to be in, for sure.
No, it isn't. Thanks for being with us here on Voice for Mount Pleasant. Okay, Brooks?
Well, thanks for having me, and I'll leave you with one last thing. We have our Mount Pleasant branch located on Houston Northcutt Boulevard, and we're in process of plans for a headquarters location on 17 North at some point in the future.
That location, 17 North, is really good. That's going to be a great location.
It's really the center of town now, and we're really excited about that spot.
Well, thanks for being here, and thanks for heading up Charleston's Community Bank.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for spending your time with the Voice for Mount Pleasant podcast by Mount Pleasant Magazine. Your community, your podcast. Listen to past episodes at voiceformp.com.